What's going on, guys? Dots here, and today I'm bringing you my updated Magicka Templar PvP build for the Elder Scrolls Online Deadlands patch. So my Magplar has pretty much stayed the same for the last couple of patches, and this build for this patch is going to be no different. I tried messing with some other stuff for him, trying to kind of tweak this build a little bit, but honestly, I realized after playing it a bit more that I very much just like it the way I had it, honestly, and I felt really good for me and my play style, and I was enjoying the way it was feeling. And so what I actually did was I took the build this patch and actually properly traded it and got that all done. So the stats are going to be a little bit more optimized compared to how they were on the build video from last patch. But if you've enjoyed my Magplar for the last couple of patches, you're going to enjoy it again this patch because, like I said, it really has not changed very much. But before we get into the build video, guys, I do just want to mention that I am affiliated with a company called Green Man Gaming. This is a gaming key seller. They work directly with the companies. This isn't like some sort of gray market type of sales place where you're going to be getting keys from sketchy spots and you have to worry about whether or not you're going to actually get them. They are a licensed key seller. You can get really big discounts on games over on Green Man Gaming. So if you want a way to support me with some affiliate commission while you get some games at a great discount, feel free to check them out. Link will be in the description below. But without further ado, guys, let's actually kick off this build video today. And we are running our first one-piece set, and it is going to be one piece of Lord Warden. So I have run this build without Lord Warden, testing a bunch of different one-piece armor sets here, and honestly, the little bit of armor from Lord Warden really feels like it rounds out this build very well, gives it a nice amount of tankiness. You feel nice and beefy. And I tried this with like Dami or a line of recovery or a line of damage. Like I tried a bunch of different things here, but from my experience, you know, the armor felt the best, gave me that little bit of extra tankiness that I needed because I don't really run a dedicated defensive set in this build. So having that extra one line of armor, I personally found was extremely helpful. Our main body 5 piece is going to be 5 pieces of Ancient Dragon Guard. I've loved Ancient Dragon Guard on my Magplar for a very long time, giving us a line of health, a line of spell damage, a line of critical, gives you 300 spell damage when you're above 50% health and 3300 resistance when you're below 50% health. So it gives you damage when your HP is high and gives you resistance when your HP is low to defend your heals. This is kind of like a hybrid offensive defensive set, and I feel like it fits a lot of niches for the Magplar extremely well. And because Magplar just has such great built-in healing, I personally find that having the resistance on the lower end of things to actually be really helpful to help defend and protect those heals to allow you to get yourself back up and into the fight. Now, our main front bar offensive 5 piece on this build is going to be 5 pieces of spinners with 2 lines of Magicka, a line of spell damage, and 3300 offensive penetration. Spinners is just an amazing set for the Magplar, giving us an absolute boatload of pen, just allowing us to go through our opponent's defenses, you know, much more easily with a set like this, and allow us to deal as much damage as possible because, again, penetration is going to be one of your most efficient offensive stats in the game, so it is very, very helpful to just, again, get through your opponent's defense. Now, because we do run this build as a heavy armored build, we're actually in 5 heavy, 1 medium, and 1 light. As you can see, we have a whopping 15% spell critical, and so because our crit is low, that is a perfect opportunity to use the Malakath Band of Brutality, giving you 16% increased damage done while reducing your critical damage. Now, thankfully, this does not impact healing, so you can still get critical heals, but again, our crit's so low, we're barely ever going to be critting, so Malakath is a really good way to add some flat damage to your build and really buff up those tooltips and your overall damage. And then we do run on the back bar, we do run 2 pieces of Death's Wind. This is just to give us a little bit more resistance on that back bar to make us a little bit tankier. You could also feel free to run something like Critical Riposte here for more crit resist if you want. Personally, my crit resistance is pretty high on this build at 2500, so I personally just prefer to go for Death's Wind to get a little bit extra tankiness and more armor on that back bar where we're going to be playing defensively. Now, in terms of traits and everything, we, like I said, are running 1 piece of medium, 1 piece of light, and 5 pieces of heavy. If you were wearing this optimally, the Lord Warden shoulder should be heavy and the gloves should be medium, but I don't have a heavy Lord Warden shoulder, so I'm just kind of rocking this at the moment. But we run 1 reinforced, 2 sturdy, and 1, 2, 3, 4 impen. Reinforce you want on that heavy chest. We run triple arcane, 2 spell damage, 1 Magicka recovery. We run a Nirnhoned shock staff with a weapon and spell damage glyph, a powered one-hander, and then either Nirnhoned or reinforced on the shield with a maximum Magicka glyph. Now, in terms of our skills, we are going to be using Puncturing Sweep as our spammable. Obviously, it is jabs. We are playing a Magplar. We are going to want to use this. You deal magic damage over time in an area by slowing and also slowing the movement speed of your closest enemy, and you also heal for 40% of the damage done with this ability. So this is going to be a ton of healing coming into your character passively on top of all the other great heals that Magicka Templar has. So this is going to really kind of help keep you tanky. And on top of that, you also do get Spear Wall while actively jabbing, so minor protection is built into the build with a 5% damage reduction for 6 seconds whenever you jab. So this is not only healing you and dealing great damage, but it is also making you tankier. We also do have Toppling Charge. Is going to be our gap closer and our primary crowd control on the build. This is one of the only times you'll ever see me use a gap closer, and it is because it also suits our purpose as our primary CC. Toppling Charge is a very, very loaded skill that gives us a lot, and let me tell you, I don't run gap closers all that often because most gap closers are pretty bad, but man, like, this one's so good, and it's so nice to have it. People can't always get away from you, and so you could really stick to people constantly with this. You're stunning them down and just rushing them down. It's super, super good. And this is going to be, like I said, be your primary crowd control for the build. We use Purifying Light. This is going to be our primary burst in the build. This is going to deal some initial magic damage, and it's going to copy all damage taken from our opponent, or from us on our opponent, and releasing 50% of it as magic damage dealt to them. And when the effect ends, a pool of sunlight will remain on the opponent, healing allies every 2 seconds for 6 seconds. So basically what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to Purifying Light, Toppling Charge, a shitload of jabs, and then you're going to want to go into Crescent Sweep, dealing 11.4k magic damage to nearby enemies, an additional 5.1k damage every 2 seconds for 6 seconds, and enemies in your path will be hit for 60% more damage. This is going to be our burst ultimate for the build, and this shit hits so hard, man, and it's really cheap. 73 ults. You're going to have this up very, very, very frequently. Almost every burst combo, you'll pretty much be able to have this available, and if you're Purifying Light, Crescent Sweep doesn't kill them, you also have Radiant Glory to finish them off, burning an enemy with a Ray of Holy Fire, dealing 10.5k magic damage over 1.8 seconds, and you deal up to 480% more damage to enemies below 50% health, and you also heal for 20% of the damage inflicted. So I personally really like this morph over the morph that actually does deal more damage. There is a morph that deals more damage based off of missing mana, but I personally find this one to be a little bit better. I don't find the damage difference between the other morph and this one to be like all that crazy, and I feel like this does enough damage when an opponent is in execute range to actually kill them. And for me, if I'm playing outnumbered, I actually find this heal to be extremely useful. You know, you got 2 or 3 people attacking you, you're getting ready to kill one as the other 2 are attacking you, and you're actively healing as you're executing that opponent. So it just helps you kind of stay in that fight a little bit longer, tank out your opponents. And for me, I find this to be the better between of the 2 morphs. But if you want to just go pure damage, you don't care about the healing, feel free to go ahead and use that other morph. It is totally up to you. I also do run Elemental Drain in the build. It's going to be our source of Major Breach, as well as give us minor Magicka Steal, giving us effective 340 Magicka Recovery for 23 seconds, as long as we're attacking our opponents. So great skill, gives you damage, sustain, all for free. So, you know, doesn't get much better than that. On that SMB back bar, our first skill is going to be Degeneration. This is going to be giving us a 16.4k magic dot over 12 seconds, but most importantly, this is going to be our source of Major Sorcery for the build, giving us that increase of spell damage. We also do run Extended Ritual. Extended Ritual is going to be our Purge, removing 5 harmful effects from our character and healing us and nearby allies for 3,200 health every 2 seconds for 24 seconds. Allies in the area can also activate the Purify Synergy, cleansing all harmful effects from them. This is going to just, again, it's your Purge. You know, you got a lot of negative effects on you from playing and tanking things out, and so you just use the Purge, you take a bunch of them off, and then you're, you know, also get a hot. So we also do run Honor the Dead. This is going to be our burst heal, so this heals you for about 13k health, and healing anyone who's below 75% health, which you obviously will only be using this when that is the case. You will be restoring 18% of the ability's cost every 2 seconds over 6 seconds as Magicka, so this does kind of help cheapen the cost a little bit of the skill, because at a base it is pretty expensive, but you do get that Magicka back over time, which is very helpful. We We also do run channeled focus. This is going to be our armor buff, and it is super, super good, giving us 6k resistance from major resolve, but we also get 242 magicka every second, so an effective 484 magicka recovery on our armor buff, which is insane. And then if you stand on the rune, you also get healed for 1400 health every second, so again, just more passive healing in the build. It's very cheap. This just gives a lot of sustain all around, and it is a great ultimate. Now, I personally do use Elusive Mist on my Magicka Templar, so when you do kite with this skill, you reduce damage taken by 75%, and you also get Major Expedition, increase your movement speed by 30% for as long as you maintain a channel. I really love Elusive Mist for the Magplar. Personally, I feel that one of Magicka Templar's biggest weaknesses is ranged attacks. Like, I feel like your range defense on the Magplar is relatively weak, and I personally found that trying to kite without Elusive Mist was incredibly difficult. I have tried Race Against Time and using other skills like Eclipse to kind of defend myself, but I honestly think that that compels in comparison to Elusive Mist. Also, because Magicka Templar has such good innate magicka recovery between channeled focus and between elemental drain, like sustaining stage 1 vampire is super, super, super easy, and Elusive Mist is absolutely worth the grab for the slight drawbacks that you do get. We do only remain at a stage 1. I don't personally find the need to go up to 3. You can obviously do if you want to. You could go up and adjust your sustain accordingly. But for me personally, I have found Elusive Mist to be worth it just at a stage 1. And our final skill in the build is going to be Spell Wall. So this is going to be the SMB ultimate. Reinforce your shield, allowing you to automatically block all attacks at no cost and reflect all projectiles to cast you for 7 seconds. This is going to be your defensive ult in the build. For when shit hits the fan, you pop Spell Wall. It just automatically blocks for you and just allows you to heal yourself back up, get into the fight, and once you top yourself back off, you swap to your front bar, go back into the jabs while that Spell Wall is blocking for you. So just a really good ultimate to use. You could also customize this for group play, maybe go into Nova if you want to use that instead here. But for just general like solo stuff or small, like really small scale, I recommend Spell Wall quite a lot. Now, in terms of stats, we got 35.7k Magicka on that front bar, going up to 37.3k on the back bar. We got 28.6k maximum health with 18.7k max stam. Got about a 1,000 Magicka recovery. I don't really feel like I need much more than that. Just Magplar is so much built-in sustain, so I really don't feel like you need any more. Got about 4k spell damage with 5k base penetration, which is going to go up to about 10k when you actually use that Ellie Drain. You got 18.4k spell resist with 17.7k physical resist, and then on that back bar, you go up to 21.8 and 21k respectively with 2500 critical resistance. And we do use the Atronach Mundus Stone, the Bewitched Sugar Skulls buff food. Atronach's really efficient to use. It's very, very stat dense with the amount of magic recovery it gives. So that's why we use that. Like I said, Bewitched Sugar Skulls for that tri-stat food. All 64 points into Magicka. And then I personally run High Elf. I think that damaging races for Magplar are personally the best. The class just has a ludicrous amount of sustain built into it that I really do not feel that you need to run a sustain race. So personally, High Elf or Dark Elf would be my 2 races of choice. Just because it's going to give you the most bang for your buck in terms of damage, and then give you a really good, nice, spread of other stats. The reason I like High Elf in particular, you do get some stamina sustain from spell recharge. You also get damage reduction when you actually channel your execute. So that's actually spell recharge from High Elf actually is useful on the Magplar. You get another 2,000 maximum Magicka and 258 spell damage. So High Elf's really, really good for Magplar. Definitely recommend it. In terms of potions, I just use regular old tri-stat pots. Health, Magicka, and stamina. Does not get much easier than that. Now, in terms of our champion points, guys, we are running Duelist Rebuff for that 10% damage reduction. We are running Resilience for 660 critical resistance, which is essentially 10k crit damage reduction, and then also Ironclad for 10% direct damage reduction. This, I think, covers most of the stuff that we're scared of, so that's why we run those 3. And then we do run Master at Arms for that 10% direct damage reduction, since this does cover almost all of our major offensive abilities that we care about. Now, you might be wondering, Dots, why are you running 3 defensive CP instead of 2 offensive and 2 defensive like you normally do? And it is because that for this build in particular, I don't really run a dedicated defensive set. I run like Ancient Dragon Guard's kind of like a hybrid between offense and defense. Spinners is purely offensive. Malakath's purely offensive. I mean, I got one line of Lord Warden. I'm in full heavy armor. But I feel like the amount of damage that this build deals out of base is already so good that I think that Master at Arms is enough to kind of give me a damage boost. And I would rather cover myself on the defensive side of things for my champion points. Now, if you feel like this is a little bit too much defense, what I would recommend doing is probably popping out Resilience and then grabbing Biting Aura in order to boost the damage of your jabs and crescent sweep. Now, from the red CP, we are going to be using Boundless Vitality for 1400 maximum health, Survival Instincts for 25% cost reduction on core combat skills when afflicted by a status effect. So this will give us more block cost reduction, which again, for any build that uses an SMB is going to be very important. And then we also use Sustained by Suffering. So this is going to give us recovery whenever we're under the effect of a negative effect, 150 total recovery. And now we use Pain's Refuge. So this reduces the damage taken by 2% for every 2 negative effects on you, up to a maximum of 20%. Now, I personally, even though I'm playing a Templar, I still do find Pain's Refuge to be very valuable, even with Purge. You know, when you're playing outnumbered, you're going to have just so many negative effects on you. So purging off 5, like, yeah, you'll lower this a little bit, but it's not going to be so much that I don't think it's worth grabbing. Like, you're still going to get a lot of good value out of this set, you know, just because, again, even if you have 20 effects on you and you purge off 5, you're still going to be getting a ton of damage mitigation from Pain's Refuge. And so I do think it's worth it even with the Purge. But if you disagree with me and you personally don't want to run this, I would swap out Pain's Refuge for Relentlessness, so that being stunned or feared causes you to gain major protection for 3 seconds, reducing your damage taken by 10%. So if, you know, you feel that maybe this isn't enough with the way Purge is, I think it is. But again, if you don't, you feel free to run Relentlessness in its place. And then green CP is obviously going to be up to you. Now, in terms of a rotation, on this build, you're going to want to maintain channel focused on yourself, degeneration on your enemies, and LE drain on your enemies. You know, this build isn't, you know, crazy on the buff and debuff maintenance. Just a lot of the stuff is actually pretty reactive. So with those buffs maintained, basically what you're going to want to do is before a fight, you're going to want to, like I said, with LE Drain applied, you're going to want to apply your Purifying Light. You're going to want to charge in with Toppling Charge. You're going to want to hit them with the Crescent and then go into the jab spam. And then as they start to get low, hit them with Radiant Glory. You're just going to want to rinse and repeat that over and over and over again. Obviously, if you don't have Crescent, take that out of the equation. But that's pretty much the offensive rotation that you just want to repeatedly do. Defensively, you want to use Elusive Mist to kite. Use Purge whenever you have a lot of, you know, you're taking a lot of damage. Purge is really good. It gets all those negative effects on you. Gets a hot on you as well, which is really important. And then you can just get hold block and just go into that Honor the Dead and just heal yourself up. And then go back into your offensive rotation. You know, the rotation for Templar is really easy. It's a very good beginner class. And if you're looking for a solid build to get started on and get your feet wet in PvP, I highly recommend the Retribution build here for you guys today. But guys, on that note, that is going to be it for me. I hope you do enjoy this build and have enjoyed this build if you have been running it. If you do have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. If you guys have been liking these updated PvP builds for Deadlands, I'd appreciate if you hit that sub button as well as hit the bell to keep notifications on. And guys, please leave a like on the video. It really does help me in YouTube's algorithm. So, you know, appreciate if you do that. And guys, if you do want a way to support the channel while getting some great games in the process, feel free to check out the Green Man Gaming affiliate link that I have in the description below to buy your you know, games at a discount while also supporting me for free. Now guys, that's going to be it for me today. I do appreciate you stopping by and I hope you did enjoy the video. Thank you so much. As always, I'm Dots Gaming and I'll see you all in the next video.